The argument I make in the book is that if we look honestly at the task of transforming our societies so that we can get off fossil fuels quickly enough, in line with what scientists are telling us, it changes everything about our political and economic system. It is not just a technocratic and technological challenge. It lights up all of these other issues. It lights up what are the values and what's the ideology that governs our societies, right? I mean, do we believe in collective action? Do we believe that there's a role for government and the public sphere? Because if we don't, we have no hope of doing something as dramatic as getting our emissions down to, we need to lower our emissions by 80% by mid-century in wealthy countries, right? This is not just like a technical fix of, like getting CFCs out of production. This is changing the building blocks of our economy. So the other thing that it connects to is militarism, because we fight wars to access fossil fuels, and those wars destabilize regions. And then those regions are further destabilized by the impact of burning those very fossil fuels. Because we know that the invasion of Iraq destabilized the whole region. We know that has something to do with oil. That, I think it was Alan Greenspan who said if their major export was asparagus, they probably wouldn't have been invaded. And then on top of that, and this is something John Kerry has said multiple times, that the drought, the historic drought in Syria, was a major driver of the outbreak of civil war, because there was huge agricultural failure, crop failure. 1.5 million Syrians were forced off their land, went into overcrowded cities. This fueled the conflict. So it's like this region is in a pincer, right? Having too much oil and too little water, digging up the stuff that is causing climate change, and then being first in line to feel the impacts of climate change.
But I think everyone going to Paris as part of civil society is scratching their heads and trying to figure out the answer to this question. Also, why is it okay to have football matches, but not okay to have peaceful demonstrations of the right to free expression? Why is it okay to have Christmas markets? Why is it okay to have concerts? Why is the French government singling out what they were trying to contain and prevent anyway, which is mass mobilizations?
Are you saying that the French authorities are misusing these terrorist attacks for quieting down
There have been negotiations going on between the civil society coalition for a long time with the government about the parameters of the demonstration, and people in those negotiations have been reporting for a long time that the Hollande government was hoping they wouldn't happen, was trying to restrict them, was trying to limit them, was trying to shrink them, and now they've been canceled. So, I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate concerns, my God, everyone is terrified. But if you think you can provide security for 100 world leaders, more, if you think you can provide security for soccer matches, then, I think people expressing their right to free expression they could provide security for that if it was a problem.
I mean, my view is that it's not acceptable to have a historic climate summit, and this is the most important climate summit since Copenhagen in 2009. We are in in the book I call it decade zero, right? Because climate scientists have told us that if our emissions are not pointing in the right direction by the end of the decade, we have blown our chance of staying within our carbon budget compatible with 2 degrees warming. So these next few years matter. We can't afford to change the subject again, to lose the script again. So, like Avi said, we're not saying that the concerns are illegitimate, but what I believe is that the United Nations should not have allowed France to, I think the question before the Hollande government was, can you host this summit? The whole thing, right? Not can you choose which parts you want to host. If the answer was no, we can't secure world leaders and secure a march, then we should have delayed the summit and somebody else should have hosted it. But that horse is left, it's happening, and now we need to focus on how the response to the summit in other cities is even stronger than was previously planned.